Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you are, hello. Thank you for watching my videos. It's Mike. It's September 13th, 2009. I mentioned in an earlier piece this week about China and gold, and the whole idea that the United Nations has put forward, let's have a replacement for the US dollar as a world reserve currency, because of course the dollar is tanking into the toilet. Another reason you would want to have a global reserve currency is this whole thing about carbon tax. How are you going to pay for it? Now, for instance, one of the things that people should know, of course, here we have a Federal Reserve note. This is worth apparently $20. This is the $10 one. I think they're taking the piss here, because if you look at it, it's got the whole "we the people" nonsense. We the people who run your banks. Now, of course, previously, the US dollar did not say Federal Reserve note on the top. So if I get a more recent dollar, let's have a look at this dollar here. It used to say US dollar on the top. Now it says Federal Reserve note. I'll see if I can get that to focus. One of the other things, of course, that it says is that this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Now, basically, when they came out with the whole Federal Reserve system, they changed the laws that said that you had to pay your taxes in Federal Reserve notes. Couldn't use dollars anymore. You had to use the Federal Reserve notes, which looked remarkably similar to a dollar, and still do. It's just a big game. Now, of course, the the big thing about that little line, legal tender for all debts, public and private, actually exists on an awful lot of notes around the world. The Canadian dollar has that on there. The British pound also has something similar written on it. Basically saying that it's not actually the currency, it's just a means of payment. It's debt, obviously. So, back to the point then. So if the world is looking for a new reserve currency, why is that? Taxes! The finance minister of Germany came out this weekend. Steinbrück seeks global tax. Now, he wants to begin by taxing financial institutions, 0.005% on all transactions or international transactions. How's he going to collect this money? In euros? What if they're dealing with Americans? Should he be collecting in dollars? What if they're actually transferring money perhaps to Japan? Should it be in yen? How about the tax is paid in special drawing rights? Because after all, a special drawing right is made up of a basket of the major currencies of the world. Oh, well, never mind. Lord Turner over in the UK has come out with something similar. This whole idea of taxing financial institutions. It's going to be a global tax. How are you going to pay a global tax? Oh, with a global currency, I suspect. Now further, Lehman is a footnote in the great East-West globalization crisis. Ambrose Evans Pritchard is at it again. Ambrose, stop telling the truth. People don't want to hear it. Basically, Lehman Brothers, which failed roughly a year ago on Tuesday, was not the main cause of all of this nonsense. The main cause of all of this nonsense is the huge, massive debt that was created in North America, primarily in the States, and the huge excess of export and capacity from Asia, primarily China. Now, the two of them working together basically was the main cause of all of this. If you're going to have that much debt, it surely has to unwind at some point. Now, one of his lines is quite funny. Couldn't they see that this was cheating, stealing from the future? No, they were seduced by inflation targeting. Watch goods, ignore assets, just as cheap imports from China rendered the doctrine obsolete. It always takes ideology to consummate massive error. Yeah. The great game can continue only as long as deficit countries, currently the United States, Spain, Italy, France, Britain, Greece, and East Europe, are willing to bankrupt themselves buying Asian goods. Obviously, this is absurd. It certainly is, Ambrose. An interesting little read. It's good to show your friends that This nonsense about it's Lehman Brothers that caused all of this. Oh, no, 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 it was that horrible Goldman Sachs. Oh, JP Morgan. It's your greed that caused this. Might as well tell you. Of course, there were people that played along with the greed, primarily the bankers and those Wall Street knobs. But it all comes down to greed, pure and simple. Now, assuming that the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank and the Bank of England somehow managed to unwind all of this capital they've been pumping into the market in the form of quantitative easing in various forms, can they shut it off in time to prevent anything drastic happening? Well, the Federal Reserve has come out and said, oh yes, we know what we're doing. We have no problem. We are the Federal Reserve. We are central bankers. The European Central Bank has come out earlier this month, sorry. Jean-Claude Trichet came out with an article, Europe has mapped its monetary exit, in a commentary in the Financial Times. Now, I've linked all these articles over here, so should you wish to read them yourself, you can. Basically saying that 4 issues will shape our approach to exiting the non-standard measures. Quantitative easing, folks, printing money out of the back of trucks and stuff, and just dumping it out of helicopters. First and foremost, should the non-standard measures trigger risks to price stability, we will begin immediately to unwind them and ensure the continued solid anchoring of inflation expectations. Yeah. So basically, he goes on for another few points, basically saying that you should trust us, we are the central bank, we know what we're doing, we have lots of very intelligent and smart people working for us, economists, no doubt. Article that came out today, Bank's Code of Omertà broken, in the Telegraph. An article from Edward Conway and Angela Monaghan. Report on a dramatic breach of security fostered by the Bank of England. Now, the Bank of England has a monetary policy committee that basically figures out, okay, sits down every month or so and says, okay, what are we going to do with inflation? What are we going to do with the rates? What are we going to do to try to deal with whatever the current economy is doing? Now, generally, whatever they do lags a bit. They may have some really bright people, but they also have some very conservative people running the place. Now, one of the former MPC members, David Blanchflower, has accused the bank of adopting a groupthink approach, which was dictated by Mr. King. It goes on basically to say that he's been shouting since September 2007 that the bank really needs to do something about this housing bubble that's been created. Now, this is in reference to an article that appears in the New Statesman this weekend, the story from the inside. So if you want to know what actually goes on inside the Bank of England, and I'm sure inside other central banks around the world, it's a very interesting article. Essentially how someone who actually understands what's going on tends to get shut out. And the people that, pencil pushers, bureaucrats, very conservative people, generally react too late to do anything properly. Okay, some happier news, not. You may remember a chap named Whitney Tilson. He appeared on a CBS documentary special in December of 2008, basically going on saying that that's great, all this subprime stuff is pretty much coming to the end. Just wait for the next set. You got your you got your ARM, your Alt ARM, and your Alt A, and your Option ARM, and all the other wacky mortgages out there. When do they come due? Now, I've linked a couple of articles here. Basically saying, one of them, the fat lady has not sung. He's not even gotten halfway through the song, apparently. I've linked here a PDF, an overview of the housing credit crisis and why there is more pain to come, from April, and I've also linked a presentation from July, I believe. Basically going on saying that the housing bubble, fostered by all these wacky mortgages out there, is still unwinding and will be unwinding for many years to come. In fact, the Alt A mortgages won't really be start resetting until, I believe it's somewhere in the beginning of 2011. Option ARM mortgages are even worse, they're further out. And one of the things that's pointed out here is a lot of the home equity loans that were generated out of this, so people taking money out of their houses, were to go and buy things like cars and plasma TVs and things like that. Well, a lot of people can't get these anymore, funnily enough. What's that going to do to the price or the number of cars people actually purchase? What's that going to do to the number of plasma TVs and other high-priced things? And of course, goes on further to mention that unemployment is increasing dramatically and prime mortgages will soon begin to foreclose. Expected soon. Now, a funny video someone sent me, Street Economics presents I Love NAMA. Now, these are a pair of street performers that went out in Dublin, in Ireland. Now, NAMA, what is NAMA? NAMA is the National Asset Management Agency. What this is Ireland's attempt to gobble up all of the bad debt that's out there in Ireland. And they're essentially creating what's called a bad bank. Now, this idea has been put out in a few other countries, but Ireland is the first one that's really going to try this in a big way. Now, they're going to try and suck up 90 billion euros worth of bad loans. Now, consider the fact that the GDP of Ireland is somewhere in the order of 75 to 80 billion euros. The bad bank is going to have more bad assets in it than the entire country produces in a year. This is not sustainable. Amongst other things, anyway, so the Irish taxpayer is going to get lumped with all of this. The banks then can carry on doing the nonsense they're doing. Now I'm going to link a video here, Irish People's Union from 9/11 Tourette's. Some of the things you can do if you're in Ireland and you want to start actually protesting this kind of nonsense. Linked an article on some of the issues this could cause. Government is now just a haircut from disaster from the Irish Independent. And an article from Reuters. Bad bank compromise cheers market. New draft law seeks banks sharing risk with bad bank. So all the risk won't be covered by the Irish taxpayer, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyway, so have a look at the Irish, the Street Economics presents I Love NAMA, and begin to understand just how few people in Ireland really understand what's going on in the economics of their country. How sad it is. And I've linked a video also, what does the EU think of NAMA? The EU may actually block this particular new law because it will effectively give it'll be anti-competitive because it will give Irish banks a perceived strength over other European banks. So Banco Santander still has to hold on to their crap, whereas the Irish banks can get rid of it. So we'll see what happens. And last but not least, cash for gold, a modern day gold seizure. Now, I wouldn't normally put this up, but it is something interesting to think about. A lot of people out there may be seeing a lot of these ads about, sell your gold, sell your old jewelry. Don't do it. Do not do it. Hold on to it. Even if it's something you really despise, like an old wedding ring or something. Keep it. It'll be worth money. Okay, folks. Peace, love, understanding. And I'll talk to you again soon.